Hi, the name of this Blender video tutorial is Blender Display Speed and File Size. One very common problem students new to Blender modeling face concerns itself with display speed and file size. Now it's only natural when modeling in Blender to focus your attention on making the modeled objects look the way you want them to appear, and pay little attention to the number of vertices, edges, and faces that comprise the object. However, sooner or later, as your models become more complex, and especially if those models are going to be exported to other applications or animated within Blender, it becomes increasingly important that your objects not only look the way you want them to look, but they're also modeled with the fewest number of vertices, edges, and faces as needed. Now fortunately, Blender provides some notations that fully describe each object, and also display the number of vertices, edges, and faces present in the entire scene. To demonstrate this, I have here a completely blank Blender scene. I've deleted the default cube, lamp, and camera objects. I should note here that during this video demonstration, I'll be moving my Blender interface from side to side, as I'm recording this video in a restricted space size, so I cannot display the full interface at once. I have saved this file in a folder on my desktop named Blender Working, and named it FileSize.blend. If I look at this file in my Mac Finder, we see that the size of this totally empty Blender file is 389 kilobytes. Now I'll add a plane object to my scene and scale it up a bit and deselect the object. Now if you look at the very top of the information window, there is some resource information displayed there. This displays information about Blender and system resources in use. This region displays how much memory is being consumed based on the number of vertices, faces, and objects in the selected scene, as well as the totals of what resources are currently selected. Now currently these notes indicate that the scene contains 4 vertices, 1 face, 1 object, no lamp objects, and is currently using about 8.7 megabytes of computer system memory. If I select the plane object and tab into edit mode, with all the vertices selected, the resource area notes that 4 of 4 vertices are selected, 4 of 4 edges are selected, and the single face is selected. It also notes that the selected vertices, edges, and face are from an object named plane. Now in the Tools panel on the left, I'll subdivide the plane object 5 times. The resources information now indicate that there are 1,024 faces in the scene. I'll save this file back to the Blender Working folder. When I look at my Mac Finder, we see that the file size is now about 485 kilobytes in size. This means that roughly, and I mean very, very roughly, for every 1,000 faces in Blender, the file size increases about 100 kilobytes. Now I'll go back to the FileSize.blend file, and I'll subdivide it, the plane object, again 2 more times. We now have 16,384 faces in the Blender scene. I'll save this file and look at my Mac Finder. The file size is now 1.8 meg. I'll go back to the FileSize.blend file and tab out of edit mode. Note that Blender is now using about 15.5 meg of my computer system memory. I'll delete the plane object, and then I'll add a monkey object to the scene and scale it up a bit. According to the resources information, the monkey object has 500 faces in it. I'll tab into edit mode, select all the vertices, and I'll subdivide the monkey object 3 times. I'll then tab out of edit mode. The scene now has 32,000 faces in it, and Blender is using about 30 meg of my system memory. I'll save this file and look at the file size in my Mac Finder. Note that the file size is now 3.2 meg. I'll go back to the Blender scene. With the monkey object selected, I'll add a subdivision surface modifier to the monkey object. I'll set the subdivision levels for both view and render to 3. The scene now contains 2,015,232 faces, and it's using about 183 meg of my system memory. I'll save this file and look at the file size in my Mac Finder. Note that even though the number of faces has drastically increased, the file size remains the same, 3.2 meg. This is because I have added the modifier to the monkey object, but I have not applied the modifier. It is still in the modifier stack, and thus an effect working on the monkey object rather than an inherent modification to the monkey mesh itself. I'll go to the modifier panel for the monkey object and press the Apply button, which will permanently apply the modifier to the monkey mesh. I'll then save the file. And I'll go to my Mac Finder and look at the file size. Note that the file size has now jumped to about 178 meg. Going back to the scene, the resource information shows Blender is now using about 435 meg of system memory. If I tab into edit mode, it takes some time for my computer to even execute this tab into edit mode command. Even when it finally does, I have great difficulty moving these vertices because the object is consuming so much of my computer and my display memory. The whole point of this demonstration is to caution you to be cognizant of the number of faces you are creating while modeling with Blender, especially when using the subdivide and subdivision surface modifier. If you need to smooth faceted planes, use the Smooth tool rather than the Subdivision tool. When you do use the Subdivision surface modifier, be aware of the number of subdivisions you set for the view.